The moment someone disrespects you, everything in you wants to react. To prove a point. To win. But what if the real power is silence? What if the strongest move is the one they never see coming? Stay with me, because what you're about to learn will change how people treat you forever. There is a quiet strength in refusing to be pulled into chaos. When a rude person throws words at you, they are not offering truth, they are revealing themselves. Most people respond instantly, emotionally, and without control. But you are not most people. You are learning to master yourself. And the moment you stop reacting, you take back control. That is the beginning of making them speechless. A rude person feeds on your reaction. They expect anger, frustration, or defensiveness. When you give them none of that, you break their pattern. You confuse them. You disarm them. Imagine looking at someone who expects a fight and giving them calm, steady silence. Not weakness, not fear, just control. That silence speaks louder than any argument ever could. Stoic wisdom teaches that you cannot control what others say, but you can control how you respond. And that response defines your power. When you pause before speaking, when you choose your words carefully or choose not to speak at all, you rise above the situation. You become untouchable. The rude person is left alone with their own noise, and that is where they begin to lose. Sometimes, the most powerful response is a simple, calm statement. No anger, no emotion, just clarity. Words like, I don't engage in disrespect, or, that's not how I communicate, can stop someone in their tracks. You are not attacking them. You are setting a boundary. And boundaries make people uncomfortable when they are used to control. There is also power in walking away. Not every battle deserves your energy. Not every person deserves your time. When you choose to leave instead of argue, you send a message that cannot be ignored. You are telling them, without saying a word, that they do not have the power to disturb your peace. That is what makes them speechless. A calm presence is intimidating to those who thrive on chaos. When your face shows no reaction, when your voice remains steady, when your energy does not shift, you become unpredictable. And people fear what they cannot control. The rude person expected a reaction. Instead, they meet a wall of calm. That is where their confidence begins to crumble. Remember, you are not here to win arguments. You are here to win yourself. Every time you choose discipline over emotion, you grow stronger. Every time you refuse to react, you build respect without demanding it. And over time, people will think twice before speaking to you with disrespect. Not because you are loud, but because you are unshakable. Silence is not empty. It is full of control. It shows that you are not desperate to prove anything. It shows that you are secure within yourself. And when someone realizes they cannot provoke you, they lose interest. Because people who seek conflict are looking for energy, and you are no longer giving it to them. You don't need to match someone's negativity to defeat it. You rise above it, you let it fall beneath you. And in doing so, you create a presence that commands respect without force. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom. Not reacting, not absorbing negativity, not becoming what you dislike. Most people lose control in the first few seconds of conflict. Their emotions take over. Their voice changes. Their words become weapons. And in that moment, they give away their power without even realizing it. But you are different. You are here because you want control. You want mastery. And that begins with understanding one simple truth. Not every reaction deserves your attention. A rude person is not powerful. They are predictable. They rely on your reaction to feel in control. When they insult you, interrupt you, or try to belittle you, they are not showing strength. They are revealing insecurity. And once you see that clearly, everything changes. You stop taking it personally. You start observing instead of reacting. There is a moment, right after someone says something disrespectful, where you have a choice. React instantly, or pause. That pause is where your power lives. It may only last a second, but in that second, you decide who you are. You decide whether you will be controlled by emotion or guided by discipline. Silence, when used correctly, is one of the most powerful responses you have. It creates tension. It forces the other person to face themselves. It removes the energy they were expecting from you. And suddenly, the situation shifts. They were ready for a fight. Instead, they are met with calm. That calm unsettles them more than any argument ever could. People are used to noise. They are used to reactions. They are used to drama. When you give them none of that, you stand out immediately. You become someone they cannot easily manipulate. And that is what makes them uncomfortable. Not your words, not your anger, your control. Control is rare. Anyone can shout, anyone can argue, anyone can insult. But very few people can remain calm when tested. Very few people can hold their ground without raising their voice. And when you become that person, you don't need to demand respect. It comes naturally. There is also strength in choosing your words carefully. When you do speak, your words should be simple, calm, and direct. No emotion. No unnecessary explanation. Just clarity. This shows confidence. This shows that you are not trying to prove anything. You are simply stating your position. And sometimes, the most powerful statement is no statement at all. Walking away is not weakness. It is awareness. It is understanding that your energy is valuable and not everyone deserves access to it. When you walk away from disrespect, you send a message that cannot be ignored. You are not available for chaos. Think about it. The person who reacts emotionally is easy to control. The person who remains calm is impossible to control. Which one do you want to be? Every situation like this is an opportunity. Not to prove others wrong, but to prove yourself right. To show yourself that you are in control. That you are disciplined. That you are not easily shaken. And each time you succeed, you become stronger. The truth is, rude people test boundaries. They push limits to see what they can get away with. When you react emotionally, you show them your limits are weak. But when you remain calm and composed, you show them your limits are firm. And once they see that, their behavior changes. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to argue to be understood. Your presence alone can communicate everything. The way you stand, the way you look at someone, the way you remain composed under pressure, all of it speaks louder than words. There is something powerful about being unbothered. It sends a message that you are not easily influenced, that you are grounded, that you are focused on something greater than temporary conflict, and that kind of presence is rare. Most people spend their lives reacting to opinions, reacting to criticism, reacting to negativity. But when you stop reacting, you step into a different level of awareness. You begin to see things clearly. You begin to understand people better. And most importantly, you begin to understand yourself. This is not about suppressing emotions. It is about mastering them. It is about feeling everything, but choosing your response wisely. It is about knowing that just because you feel something does not mean you have to act on it. When someone is rude to you, ask yourself this: is this worth my peace? Is this worth my energy? Most of the time, the answer is no, and when you truly understand that, letting go becomes easy. Your peace is your responsibility. No one else can protect it for you. No one else can maintain it for you. It is something you must guard at all times. And sometimes, protecting your peace means staying silent. Sometimes, it means walking away. Sometimes, it means saying less. There is a quiet confidence in people who are not easily provoked. They don't need to prove anything. They don't need validation. They don't need to win every argument. They are secure within themselves. And that security is what makes them powerful. Over time, people will notice the difference in you. They will see that you don't react like everyone else. They will see that you remain calm under pressure. And they will begin to treat you differently. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it through your actions. Respect is not something you ask for. It is something you demonstrate. And the way you handle disrespect plays a big role in how much respect you receive. There is a deeper level to this that most people never reach. It's not just about staying calm on the outside. It's about becoming calm on the inside. Because real power is not pretending to be unbothered. It is actually being unbothered. And that comes from understanding people at a deeper level. When someone is rude to you, they are often carrying something within themselves. Frustration, insecurity, anger, and instead of dealing with it, they project it onto others. If you react emotionally, you absorb that energy. But if you stay calm, you reflect it back without taking it in. That is emotional discipline. You begin to see rude behavior differently. Not as an attack, but as a signal. A signal that the other person is not in control of themselves. And when you see that clearly, it becomes easier to detach. You stop reacting because you understand. And understanding removes emotional weight. Detachment is not about being cold or distant. It is about not allowing external behavior to control your internal state. You can still be kind. You can still be respectful. But you are no longer affected by negativity in the same way. You observe it without becoming part of it. This is where true freedom begins. When people can no longer control your emotions, they lose their power over you. And most people never reach this level. They spend their lives being affected by everything and everyone. But you are choosing a different path. There will be moments where silence is not enough. Moments where you must speak. But when you speak, it should come from a place of control, not emotion. Your words should be measured. Your tone should be calm. And your intention should be clear. There is strength in saying less. The more you talk, the more you give away. The more you explain, the more you weaken your position. But when you speak with precision, people listen. Because your words carry weight. They are not thrown around carelessly. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You don't need to argue to prove your point. Your actions, your presence, and your consistency will speak for you. Over time, people will recognize it, and those who don't are not meant to be in your space. One of the most powerful things you can do is to remain consistent. Not just once, not just when it's easy, but every time you are tested. Because consistency builds identity. And identity shapes how others see you. If you react emotionally one day and stay calm the next, people will not take you seriously. But if you remain calm every time, they will begin to understand that this is who you are. And they will adjust their behavior accordingly. This is not something that happens overnight. It takes practice. It takes awareness. It takes discipline. But every situation is an opportunity to improve. Every interaction is a chance to strengthen your control. There will be times when you fail. Times when you react. Times when you lose your composure. And that is part of the process. What matters is that you learn from it, that you reflect, that you improve. Growth is not about perfection. It is about progress. It is about becoming better than you were yesterday. And as long as you continue moving forward, you are on the right path. You will also notice something interesting as you grow. You will start attracting different kinds of people. People who respect your energy. People who value your calmness. People who do not feel the need to test you. And at the same time, you will start to distance yourself from those who bring negativity into your life. Not because you hate them, but because you understand that your environment matters. Your energy matters. Protecting your peace becomes a priority. Not something you do occasionally, but something you do consistently. Because you realize that your peace is the foundation of everything else in your life. There is also a level of confidence that comes with this. A quiet confidence, not loud, not aggressive, but steady, unshakable. The kind of confidence that does not need validation. When you walk into a room, you don't need to prove anything. Your presence speaks for you. Your energy communicates everything, and people can feel it. This is what it means to be grounded. To be centered. To be in control of yourself regardless of what is happening around you. And this is what makes rude people powerless in your presence. Because they rely on reactions. They rely on emotional responses. And when they don't get that from you, they don't know what to do. They lose their script. They lose their control. That is what it means to leave them speechless. Not by overpowering them with words, but by removing the reaction they were expecting. By staying calm when they expected anger. By staying silent when they expected noise. It is a different kind of strength. A strength that is not obvious at first, but becomes undeniable over time. And once you develop it, it changes everything. There is a moment in every interaction where your identity is revealed. Not by what you say, but by how you respond. Most people don't realize this. They think power is in speaking louder, reacting faster, or dominating the conversation. But real power is much quieter. It is controlled, it is intentional, and it is rare. When someone is rude to you, they are not just testing your patience. They are testing your identity. They are unconsciously asking, are you someone who reacts, or someone who leads themselves? And your response answers that question instantly. You don't need to defend yourself against every opinion. Not every statement deserves your energy. When you start understanding this, you begin to filter what you respond to. You stop giving attention to things that don't matter. And that alone changes how people interact with you. Attention is a form of currency. Every time you react emotionally, you are paying someone with your energy. And most of the time, they have not earned it. When you withdraw that attention, you take back control. You decide where your energy goes. This is why silence is so powerful. It is not empty. It is selective. It shows that you are not easily influenced. That you are not desperate to respond. That you are in control of what deserves your attention and what does not. There is also a psychological shift that happens when you stop reacting. You begin to feel lighter, less stressed, less affected by the actions of others. Because you are no longer carrying their behavior with you. You are letting it pass. Think about how many times people carry negativity for hours, days, even weeks because of one rude interaction. They replay it in their mind. They think about what they should have said. They hold on to it, but when you master your response, you break that cycle. You experience the moment, you respond with control, and then you move on. No attachment, no overthinking, just clarity. And that is a level of mental freedom that most people never experience. There is also something important to understand. Not all rude people are loud. Some are subtle. They use sarcasm, passive comments, disrespect hidden in jokes, and these situations require the same level of awareness. You don't need to laugh at disrespect to fit in. You don't need to tolerate subtle negativity to be accepted. When you recognize it, you can choose how to respond. Sometimes that response is silence. Sometimes it is a calm look. Sometimes it is removing yourself from the situation. Your standards determine your environment. What you tolerate becomes what you experience. And when you raise your standards, your environment begins to change. This is where boundaries come in. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about controlling what you allow. And when you set clear boundaries, you teach people how to treat you. The key is to set them without emotion, without anger, without aggression, just clarity, just certainty. Because when you are certain, you don't need to be loud. There is also a difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is immediate, emotional, uncontrolled. Responding is intentional, thoughtful, controlled. And that difference defines everything. When you react, you lose control. When you respond, you maintain it, and the more you practice responding, the more natural it becomes. Over time, you will notice that situations that used to trigger you no longer have the same effect. Things that once bothered you will seem small, insignificant, not worth your energy. And this is where your confidence grows. Not from external validation, but from internal control. From knowing that you can handle yourself in any situation. Confidence is not about always knowing what to say. It is about knowing that you don't have to say anything to prove your worth. That you are enough without reacting. There is also strength in observation. Instead of reacting immediately, observe the person. Observe their behavior, their tone, their intention. And when you do this, you gain insight. You begin to understand patterns. You begin to see that most rude behavior is predictable. And once you see the pattern, it loses its power over you. You are no longer surprised. You are prepared. And preparation brings calmness. Another important aspect is self-respect. When you respect yourself, you don't allow yourself to be pulled into unnecessary conflict. You don't lower yourself to match someone else's behavior. You maintain your standard. You maintain your composure, because you understand that your behavior reflects who you are, not who they are. This is what separates strong individuals from reactive ones. Strong individuals act based on their values. Reactive individuals act based on external triggers. And when you act based on your values, you become consistent. Predictable in a positive way. Reliable, grounded, and that creates trust, not just from others, but within yourself. Trusting yourself is one of the most powerful things you can develop. Knowing that no matter the situation, you will handle it with control, with clarity, with discipline, and that trust removes fear, because you are no longer worried about how you will react. You already know. If you've made it this far, it means you are not just watching. You are learning, you are growing, and you are becoming someone who is in control of their life. There comes a point where your growth becomes visible, not because you announce it, but because people feel it. The way you respond changes. The way you carry yourself changes. And most importantly, the way others treat you begins to shift without you forcing anything. When you stop reacting to rude behavior, you create a kind of psychological distance. You are no longer on the same level of engagement. While others are caught in emotional exchanges, you remain above it, observing, choosing, and controlling your responses. This is not about arrogance. It is about awareness. It is about understanding that not every interaction deserves your full presence. Some things are simply not worth stepping into. There is a discipline in holding your tongue, in resisting the urge to correct, to argue, to prove. Because many times, people are not looking for truth. They are looking for reaction. And when you refuse to give it, the entire dynamic changes. You begin to notice something subtle but powerful. Silence creates pressure. Not on you, but on the other person. They start to feel the weight of their own words. They begin to question themselves. And in that moment, you have already won without saying anything. But this kind of silence must come from confidence, not fear. There is a difference between being silent because you are unsure, and being silent because you are in control. One is weakness, the other is power. Confidence is built through repetition, through choosing discipline again and again, even when it is difficult. Especially when it is difficult. Because those are the moments that define you. Every time you choose not to react, you strengthen a part of yourself that most people neglect. You build emotional endurance. The ability to remain steady regardless of what is happening around you. And emotional endurance is what separates those who are easily shaken from those who remain grounded. There will always be people who try to provoke you. Not because you have done anything wrong, but because your calmness challenges them. Your control highlights their lack of it. And that can be uncomfortable for them. So they test you. They push. They try to get a reaction. But when they realize that you are not affected, they begin to withdraw. Because their efforts are no longer effective. This is why consistency matters so much. One calm response is good. But consistent calmness builds a reputation. And once people recognize that you are not easily provoked, they adjust how they approach you. Reputation is not built on what you say. It is built on what you consistently do. And when your actions reflect control, discipline, and calmness, that becomes your identity. You don't need to tell people to respect you. They will see it in the way you move, in the way you speak, in the way you respond under pressure. There is also a deeper level of awareness that comes with this. You begin to understand that most conflicts are unnecessary. They are driven by ego, misunderstanding, or lack of control. And once you see that clearly, you stop participating in them. Not because you can't handle them, but because you choose not to. Choice is power. The ability to choose your response, your energy, your focus. And when you realize that you always have a choice, you stop feeling trapped by situations. You are no longer reacting automatically. You are deciding consciously. This shift changes everything. Because instead of being controlled by external events, you become guided by internal principles. Principles like calmness, discipline, and self-respect. Self-respect is a foundation. When you truly respect yourself, you don't allow yourself to be dragged into negativity. You don't engage in behavior that lowers your standard. You protect your energy. You protect your peace, not out of fear, but out of understanding. Understanding that your energy is limited. And where you invest it matters. There is also a quiet strength in letting people reveal themselves. When someone is rude, you don't need to expose them. They are already doing that on their own. Your job is not to correct everyone. Your job is to maintain your standard. And when you do that, you create space. Space for better interactions, better people, better experiences. You begin to notice that your circle changes. Your environment shifts, because you are no longer aligned with negativity. And this is not something you force. It happens naturally as you grow. Growth is not always loud. It is often quiet, subtle, internal. But its effects are visible over time. People will start to notice that you are different, that you don't react like before, that you don't engage in unnecessary conflict, and some will respect it. Some will be confused by it and some may even be uncomfortable with it, but that is part of the process. Not everyone is meant to understand your growth. What matters is that you understand it, that you stay committed to it, because this level of control is not common. It requires effort. It requires awareness. It requires discipline. But the rewards are worth it: peace of mind, clarity, confidence, control. These are things that cannot be taken from you when they are built internally. At a certain level of awareness, you stop seeing rude people as obstacles. You begin to see them as tests. Not tests meant to break you, but tests designed to reveal how far you've come. Because anyone can stay calm when everything is going well. Anyone can be composed when they are respected. But your true level is revealed when you are challenged, when you are disrespected, when you are pushed. That is where your training shows. In those moments, you are not just dealing with another person. You are facing yourself, your impulses, your emotions, your habits. And every time you choose control over reaction, you strengthen your character. Character is not built in comfort. It is built in resistance. In moments where it would be easier to react, to argue, to prove a point, but you choose not to. You choose discipline. There is something powerful about knowing you could respond, but deciding not to, knowing you could say something sharp, something that would end the conversation instantly, but choosing silence instead. That is not weakness. That is restraint. And restraint is one of the highest forms of strength. Most people don't understand this. They believe power is in dominance, in having the last word, in winning every argument. But those who truly understand power know that it lies in control. Control of your emotions, control of your words, control of your actions. Because once you control those, no one else can control you. There is also a shift that happens when you stop taking things personally. You begin to realize that most of what people say has nothing to do with you. It is a reflection of their mood, their mindset, their internal state. When someone is rude, they are expressing something within themselves. And when you understand that, you stop internalizing it. You stop letting it affect your sense of self. This is freedom. Freedom from needing approval. Freedom from being affected by every opinion. Freedom from emotional reactions that drain your energy. And when you reach this point, you move differently. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You react less, but your presence becomes stronger. You engage less in negativity, but you attract more respect. It is a quiet transformation, but a powerful one. You also begin to notice how rare this kind of control is. How most people are constantly reacting, constantly pulled in different directions by emotions, opinions, and external events. And instead of judging them, you simply understand. Because you were once there too. But now, you are choosing differently. You are choosing awareness over impulse. You are choosing calmness over chaos. You are choosing growth over reaction. And that choice, repeated over time, changes everything. There will be situations where people try harder to provoke you. Where they push more, say more, test you further. Not because you are weak, but because your calmness challenges them. They are not used to it, they expect a reaction. They expect engagement. And when they don't get it, they become unsettled. This is where many people break. They feel the pressure and give in, they react. They lose control. But this is exactly where you must hold your ground. Because the moment you maintain your composure under increased pressure, you elevate yourself even further. You show that your calmness is not temporary. It is not situational. It is who you are. And that realization changes how people deal with you. They become more careful with their words, more aware of their behavior, more respectful of your presence. Not because you demanded it, but because you demonstrated it. There is also an internal reward to this. A sense of pride, not in an arrogant way, but in a grounded, self-respecting way. You begin to trust yourself more. You know that no matter the situation, you will not lose control. You know that you can handle pressure without breaking. And that kind of self-trust is powerful. It removes fear. It removes doubt. It creates stability. You become someone who is steady, reliable, and composed. And people notice that. Opportunities come to those who are in control. Respect comes to those who are consistent. And peace comes to those who protect it. This is not just about dealing with rude people. It is about becoming a person who is not easily shaken by anything. Because life will always present challenges. Different people, different situations, different pressures. But when you build this level of control, you are prepared. Not because you know what will happen, but because you know how you will respond. And that makes all the difference. There comes a stage in your journey where silence is no longer something you force. It becomes natural, effortless. You no longer have to remind yourself to stay calm. You simply are calm. At this level, rude behavior no longer triggers the same internal reaction. It passes through your awareness without disturbing your peace. You see it, you understand it, and you let it go. This is mastery. Not perfection, but control. Not suppression, but understanding. You begin to realize that the world is full of noise. Opinions, emotions, reactions, distractions. Everyone is trying to be heard. Everyone is trying to prove something. But you are no longer part of that noise. You move differently. You speak when it matters. You stay silent when it doesn't. And in doing so, your words gain value. Your presence gains weight. Your energy becomes protected. There is something almost magnetic about a person who cannot be easily provoked. People feel it even if they cannot explain it. They recognize it. It shows in your eyes. In your posture. In your tone. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are responding to it with intention. And that changes everything. You start to notice that situations that once drained you no longer have access to your energy. Conversations that once frustrated you now feel distant, almost irrelevant. You are no longer trying to win arguments. You are no longer trying to change people. You are no longer trying to prove your worth. Because you understand something deeper. Your worth is not determined by how others treat you. It is determined by how you treat yourself. And when you truly respect yourself, you stop placing your value in the hands of others. You stop reacting to every opinion. You stop seeking validation. You stop engaging in unnecessary conflict. And in that space, something powerful happens. You find peace. Not the kind of peace that depends on everything going your way, but the kind that exists regardless of circumstances. A steady, grounded peace. The kind that cannot be shaken by a rude comment or a negative interaction. This is where you become truly free. Free from emotional dependency. Free from constant reaction. Free from the need to control others. You only focus on what is within your control. Your thoughts, your actions, your responses. And that focus gives you clarity. Clarity in how you see people. Clarity in how you make decisions. Clarity in how you move through life. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You become intentional with your time, your attention, your presence. And that intention creates a different kind of life. A life that is not chaotic, but controlled. Not reactive, but purposeful. Not noisy, but powerful. There will still be moments where you are tested. Moments where someone tries to provoke you. Moments where the old habits try to return. But now, you are aware. Now, you catch it before it takes over. Now, you pause before reacting. And in that pause, you choose differently. That is growth. That is transformation. It is not about never feeling anything. It is about not being controlled by what you feel. Because emotions are temporary, but your choices define you. And when your choices are aligned with discipline, with calmness, with control, you become someone who is stable in an unstable world. Someone who is grounded in a chaotic environment. Someone who stands firm while others are easily moved. And that is rare, very rare. Most people will never reach this level because it requires effort. It requires awareness. It requires letting go of ego, but you are here. You are listening. You are learning. Which means you are already on a different path. A path that leads to strength. To clarity. To self-mastery. And once you reach that level, everything changes. Not because the world changes, but because you do. Your perception shifts. Your reactions change. Your energy transforms. And suddenly, things that once seemed important lose their weight. You stop arguing over small things. You stop engaging in meaningless conversations. You stop allowing others to disturb your peace. Because you understand that your peace is valuable. And you protect it at all costs. This is the ultimate power. Not control over others, but control over yourself. Not dominance, but discipline. Not reaction, but response. And when you live this way, you don't just leave rude people speechless. You leave a lasting impression. An impression of calmness, of confidence, of strength. People may not always understand it, but they will respect it, they will feel it. And over time, it will influence how they interact with you. But more importantly, it will influence how you experience life. You will feel lighter, more focused, more at peace. Because you are no longer carrying unnecessary emotional weight. You are no longer reacting to everything. You are choosing your path with intention. And that is where true fulfillment comes from. If you've made it this far, it means something within you is changing. You are not just watching. You are evolving. At the highest level of self-mastery, something unexpected happens. You stop trying to control situations, and instead, you control yourself so well that situations no longer control you. This is where true power lives. Not in forcing outcomes, not in changing people, but in becoming so grounded that nothing external can shake your internal state. When someone is rude to you now, it feels different. There is space between their action and your response. A wide, calm space where you can think clearly. And in that space, you are free. Free to ignore. Free to respond. Free to walk away. Free to smile. Free to remain silent. That freedom is everything. Because most people are not free. They are controlled by triggers. Controlled by emotions. controlled by what others say and do, but you are no longer living like that. You have stepped into awareness. And awareness gives you options. You begin to notice how much of the world operates on reaction. Quick replies, heated arguments, emotional decisions, and you see how much energy is wasted in that cycle. You also begin to understand something deeper. Rude people are not your problem. Your reaction is once you solve that, everything else becomes easier. Because no matter who you face, no matter what is said, you remain the same. Calm, steady, unshaken. There is also a quiet satisfaction in knowing that you cannot be easily provoked. That people cannot pull you into unnecessary conflict. It gives you a sense of control that is not loud, not visible, but deeply felt. And that feeling builds confidence. Not the kind that needs attention, but the kind that stands on its own. You don't need to prove anything anymore. You don't need to respond to everything. You don't need to engage in every conversation. Because you understand your value. And when you understand your value, you protect your energy. You become selective. Selective with your words. Selective with your time. Selective with your reactions. And that selectiveness creates peace. You also start to notice that silence has different meanings. There is weak silence, where someone stays quiet out of fear. And there is strong silence, where someone stays quiet out of control. You are learning the second one. The kind of silence that is intentional. The kind that says, I see what you are doing, but I choose not to engage. And that kind of silence speaks loudly. It communicates confidence. It communicates awareness. It communicates strength. There will be moments when people misunderstand your silence. They may think you have nothing to say. They may think you are avoiding confrontation. But you know the truth. You are choosing peace over chaos. You are choosing control over reaction. You are choosing growth over ego, and that is a decision most people are not strong enough to make. Because ego always wants to respond. Ego wants to defend. Ego wants to win. But wisdom understands that not every battle is worth fighting. Wisdom understands that winning an argument is not the same as winning in life. And when you operate from wisdom, your actions change. You become more patient, more observant, more disciplined. You listen more. You react less. You think deeper. And all of this builds a presence that is powerful without being aggressive. A presence that commands respect without demanding it. People will feel it when they are around you. They will notice that you are different. That you don't react like others. That you don't get pulled into drama. That you don't engage in negativity. And over time, this creates a natural boundary. People who thrive on chaos will avoid you. People who respect calmness will be drawn to you. And your environment will begin to reflect your internal state. This is one of the greatest rewards of self-mastery. You don't just change yourself. You change what surrounds you. Because your energy influences everything. And when your energy is calm, controlled, and intentional, it creates a different kind of experience. You begin to live with less stress, less frustration, less emotional exhaustion. Because you are no longer reacting to everything. You are choosing what deserves your attention. And that choice is what gives you power. If you've stayed this far, it means something inside you is shifting. You are not the same person who reacts instantly. You are becoming someone who pauses, who thinks, who chooses. And that is a transformation that will impact every area of your life. So subscribe to this channel now and stay on this path. Because this journey is not about one video. It is about building a mindset that stays with you forever. And now, let this stay with you. The next time someone tries to disrespect you, the next time someone tries to provoke you, the next time someone expects a reaction from you, pause. Feel the moment. Recognize the choice in front of you. And then, do nothing. Let the silence stretch. Let the tension build. Let them face their own words. And in that quiet moment, something powerful happens. You realize that you are no longer the person who reacts. You are the person who chooses. And that choice is your power. Because in a world full of noise, reactions, and constant chaos, the rarest thing you can become is someone who remains completely unshaken. And when you reach that level, you don't just leave rude people speechless, you leave a mark they will never forget.